I put you here. It wasn't the algorithm, it wasn't a fluke, and it wasn't some random rainy Sunday coincidence. It was me. Out of 8 billion people on this planet, you are one of the very few who will hear this today. And if you've made it this far, it's because Archangel Michael was dispatched with your specific name on his lips, not a general invitation, your name. This message is about a door, the door that stands just past the effort you've already exerted, past the waiting you've already endured, and on the other side of everything you've built in the quiet of your soul. Before this video ends, you're going to understand exactly what is jamming the gears of your transition, and you're going to receive the protocol to cross over. Stay with me until the end. Now let me describe a few moments I know you've lived through. Not as a bystander, but as someone who felt the burn. You were sitting somewhere, maybe scrolling through your feed, watching everyone else move forward. It wasn't blatant envy. You're not that kind of person. But there was this quiet, persistent question. What do they have that I don't? Where am I missing the mark? You watched, you compared, you tried to find the one variable that explained the gap, and the answer never came. So you closed the app, then you opened it again, then you closed it. And the question remained. It's not because you're weak, it's because you've gotten close enough to the finish line to feel like you should have crossed it already. Then there's that midnight inventory you know all too well. When the house is silent, everyone else is asleep, and you're staring at the ceiling fan, mentally tallying up everything that hasn't arrived yet. It's not a conscious choice to suffer, but the deadline your mind invented has come and gone, and the promise still hasn't shown up, so you lie there with your eyes wide open, counting the silence. You tried to pray. Sometimes the words came. Sometimes you just stared into the dark, unable to string a single coherent sentence together. And then the sun came up, just like it did yesterday. And you got up, and you kept going. Think about the contact list on your phone. You know you're not the first person called when something big happens. The world moves on to a celebration, a dinner, an opportunity, and you find out about it after the fact. It's not that people are being malicious. It's just that the collective rhythm of the world moved forward without pausing to check if you were on board. And you aren't bitter, because that's not who you are.
You seek. You dedicate yourself. You do everything right, and yet abundance never comes. And the worst part? You start wondering if you're doing something wrong, if you're being heard up above, if it's meant for you at all. It's not a lack of faith or worthiness. It's a spiritual blockage that ordinary prayer alone cannot break. The Miracle Journal unblocks this in 21 days with a spiritual protocol that works exactly where your prayer doesn't reach. Along with the journal, you'll also receive as a gift the prayer guide and the Psalms manual, with the most powerful sacred practices and texts to deepen your transformation. To claim your version of the journal, tap the link in the comments right below this video.
And you aren't bitter, because that's not who you are. But you felt the weight of being on the outside looking in, existing on the margins of everyone else's calendar. And then there was that moment when you texted, "I'm doing fine," while your hands were shaking just a little bit. Because explaining what was actually going on inside would have cost more energy than you had left in the tank that day. Because the words you tried to build in your head felt too small for the magnitude of what you were carrying. So you typed, "I'm fine," hit send, and closed the chat. You smiled when you had to. You carried the load the way you've always carried it, in silence and with your head held high. I know you're still standing, and I know exactly what it cost you to stay on your feet. It's no small thing. And it isn't weakness, it is the mark of someone who has gotten close enough to feel the gravity of what's waiting on the other side. Hitting the like button is your public amen. Heaven records what you confess in the light. Now 3 things are going to happen before this video ends. First, you're going to realize that what feels like a delay is actually a threshold. God hasn't withheld what he promised. He has guarded the door. Guarding is different from locking. A guarded door has a sentinel, because what's on the other side is valuable enough to require protection. Things that are locked against you don't need a guard. What has been reserved for you has Archangel Michael stationed at the entrance. Second, you're going to receive the exact protocol that unlocks what has been stalled. Not a theory, not a pep talk, not another to-do list. A 3-step protocol that starts today with what you have right where you are. Third, by the end of this, you'll be able to declare something you haven't been able to say with certainty until now. I know what crossed over with me. I know what I left behind. And I know my name in the middle of all of it. I put you here because this word is for you. The door wasn't closed against you. It was guarded for you. Now close your eyes for a second, or just look away from the screen, because what I'm about to show you isn't information for your brain to process from the outside. It is recognition for your spirit to confirm from the inside. You've lived every one of these signs. You just didn't have the right name for them yet. The first sign is that recurring dream. Not always the same setting, not always the same place, but always that core sensation. You're in a space you somehow recognize, a hallway, a familiar room, a street that feels known even if you've never been there. And there is a door. And the door won't open. You push, you turn the handle, you bang on it, and it won't budge. You wake up from that dream not knowing why, and you call it anxiety or stress or working too hard or having a heavy dinner before bed. But it wasn't any of that. It was your spirit processing in symbolic language what your mind didn't have the vocabulary to name yet. You are at the threshold. The door in the dream wasn't locked to torture you. It was showing you that you've arrived close enough for your spirit to start working on the problem even while you sleep. People who aren't near the door don't dream about it. You dreamed it because you're there. The second sign is the sudden discomfort with things that used to be enough. The routine that used to sustain you is starting to feel heavy. The environment that used to hold you can't contain you anymore. The old level doesn't fit, and when you try to squeeze back into it, it feels like something is slightly off kilter. You tried to convince yourself it was a lack of gratitude, that you needed to learn to be content, that your dissatisfaction was a sign of spiritual immaturity. But it wasn't. Your interior has already been prepped for the next level, and once you're prepared for the next, you can't return to the previous without it hurting. This discomfort isn't ingratitude. It's a sign that the vessel was expanded before the contents were poured in. It's a sign that you've already been processed internally for what's on the other side of the door, and what you left behind is no longer your size. The third sign is that persistent feeling that something big is imminent. Not years from now, soon. A quiet certainty that isn't anchored in any external data, something you can't explain rationally. It shows up and creates an expectation that doesn't immediately manifest in anything visible. So it fades, and you think you were just imagining things. Then, weeks later, it comes back, and fades again. You called it unfulfilled expectations, or naive optimism, or unfounded anxiety. But it wasn't. It was the feeling of the spiritual antechamber. The antechamber is the space immediately before the entrance. It's not the journey. It's not the beginning. It is the specific gap between the path and the crossing. Those in the antechamber have already finished the walk. They are one move away from crossing. That sense of imminence isn't an illusion. It is a spiritual perception of your position. The fourth sign is what people around you have been saying without realizing what they were describing. You've changed. You're different. It's not always a compliment. Sometimes it's an uncomfortable observation. Sometimes it's a distance you felt even if nobody named it. A gap where there used to be easy proximity. You were confused because you didn't visibly do anything different. You didn't move house. You didn't change your look. You didn't announce a new you. Sure, but the exterior has begun to confirm what the interior has already processed. When people realize you've changed, without being able to put their finger on what it is, it's because the change isn't in your habits or behaviors. It's in your identity. And an identity that shifts from the inside out leaves tracks that others see before you even see them clearly. That strangeness people feel around you isn't a sign you lost something. It's a sign you gained something that hasn't been named yet. The next sign is the hardest one to hear. It's what the enemy has spent the most time trying to make you ignore. It's what he wants you to keep calling by the wrong name. The fifth sign is the paralysis that hits exactly when it's time to move. Not at the start of the journey when you were just beginning to walk. Not in the middle when the door was still miles away. It hit exactly when you were about to cross. The meeting you scheduled and then cancelled at the last minute with a reasonable excuse. The email you wrote to the end but never sent because you closed the tab. The step you took halfway and then retracted to a safer place. the decision you made, and then unmade the moment it was about to become real. You called it a lack of faith. You called it fear disguised as prudence. You called it a weakness you needed to overcome. But it wasn't. Paralysis at the threshold isn't a sign that it's not for you. It is the most precise indicator that it is exactly for you. The enemy doesn't use his heavy hitters at the start of the race. He has no interest in the beginning. He doesn't concentrate his effort in the middle of the woods. He puts his maximum force at the door, because the door is where the transition happens. He has to stop you there because he's past the point of being able to stop you from starting. Paralysis at the threshold isn't weakness. It's a arrival notification. Write free in the comments if this word is hitting home. Close your eyes for a second. Take a deep breath. What I'm about to tell you won't work if your attention is divided. There's a story in Scripture that I need you to hear today with different ears. Joshua and the people of Israel spent 6 full days circling the walls of Jericho, 6 whole days in silence. The instruction was, don't speak, just walk, circle the city, go back. The next day, do it again. 6 days. No visible results. No external indication that it was working. No sign that the stone was cracking. No confirmation that it was worth the effort. The people watching from the top of those walls probably had their own theories about what was happening, and the Israelites probably had internal questions they couldn't voice because of the command to stay silent. That silence lasted 6 days. But what most people skip over is this. The breakthrough was guaranteed before the first shout. God didn't wait until the 7th day to decide if it was going to happen. The decision was made before the first lap. Those 6 silent laps weren't to convince God. They weren't to prove merit. They were to prepare the people for what was about to be handed to them. Obedience in silence wasn't defeat. It was the protocol for the crossing. And on the 7th day, on the 7th lap, at the sound of the trumpet and the shout of the people, the wall that had stood perfectly unshakable for 6 days gave way all at once. It didn't crack first. It didn't wobble as a sign that things were working. It collapsed. Joshua didn't have more physical strength on the 7th day than he had on the first. The people weren't more skilled on the last lap than the first. What changed was the fulfillment of the specific protocol for that threshold. The wall didn't fall because they were stronger. It fell because they reached the door with the exact movement that threshold required. Now let's look at a different reality. In the world of high-altitude mountaineering, there's a principle that says the same thing in different language. A climber who stops 30 yards below the summit usually doesn't stop because they ran out of strength. It wasn't a lack of training. It wasn't a lack of grit. The climber stops because the oxygen changes in the final stretch. The atmospheric pressure is different. What worked for 90% of the climb starts producing different results in the death zone. The rhythm has to change. The breathing has to change. The footwork has to change. The tools have to be adjusted to the specific threshold of that peak. The climber who insists on using the technique that worked perfectly for the first 2/3 of the mountain never reaches the top. Not because the summit vanished, not because the goal was cancelled, but because the threshold of the final yards demands a different movement than the start or the middle. The tools change. The destination doesn't. Joshua arrived at the walls of Jericho with everything he needed to cross. The climber arrived 30 yards from the peak with everything needed to finish. What was missing in both cases wasn't more effort of the same kind. It wasn't more generic talent. It wasn't more persistence in the old method. It was the movement specific to that threshold. The adjustment that is only possible for someone who has gotten close enough to need it. Write in the comments, Joshua or climber. Which one feels closer to where you are right now? Let me stop for a full minute. You've made it this far carrying the promise from the beginning without losing it along the way. You could have quit at dozens of points. There were moments I know about, moments where it would have been easier to stop, simpler to find a reasonable excuse to shut down, more comfortable to just accept that maybe this wasn't for you, and you didn't accept that. You are here, standing outside the door, with everything that was promised waiting on the other side. The door exists because what's on the other side is valuable enough to be guarded. Unguarded doors protect things that don't matter. You wouldn't even be seeing this message if what's on the other side could be grabbed by anyone just passing by. The The guard is proportional to the value, and the thing on the other side of your door has Archangel Michael stationed there. Archangel Michael isn't sent to console people who quit halfway. He isn't sent to offer comfort to those who chose not to arrive. He is sent to summon those who have gotten close enough, those who are at the door. Michael's deployment isn't a general offer, it is a specific convocation, and that convocation has a name. The 5 signs confirmed what I need you to receive now with a clear mind. It isn't a lack of ability. It was never a lack of faith. It is a threshold, and a threshold requires the specific movement of the door, not more of the movement of the journey. What you're about to hear isn't a title someone gave you for your resume. It isn't a job well done from human hands. It is what I call you when I talk to heaven about you. It is the name that precedes you. It is what exists about you before you ever walk into a room. You are a threshold bearer. I saw every time you got close and pulled back. Every single time. Not once, not twice. I saw every instance. And I saw something you couldn't see in the moment. The second you pulled back, you were still closer than anyone who never even tried to get there. And I also saw that you came back. Every time you returned, I recorded it. Each return carried more weight than the last. What made you come back wasn't naivety or blind stubbornness. It was something I put in you before you even knew what it was. What this identity changes is simple. Your interpretation of the paralysis. You don't freeze because it isn't for you. You freeze because you've reached the threshold. And threshold bearers are the only ones who ever reach the threshold. Those who aren't carrying what's on the other side never get close enough to feel the resistance of the door. Paralysis isn't heaven's answer to your destiny. It is the threshold's resistance to your position. Those are 2 completely different things, and confusing them has cost you dearly. What this identity authorizes: you can stop interpreting the paralysis at the moment of breakthrough as a sign of rejection. You can stop using it as evidence against yourself. It confirms your arrival, not your exclusion. You are called by name. Archangel Michael wasn't sent with a general list of interested parties. He wasn't sent with an open invitation for whoever wanted to show up. He was sent with a name, your specific name. I saw the inventory of those nights. I saw the questions you didn't ask out loud because you didn't want to seem weak or ungrateful to the people who love you. I saw the hand that typed "I'm okay" while something else was happening inside. I saw the circles you ran in over the last few months, trying to figure out what was wrong. And I didn't interpret any of that as weakness or a lack of faith. I interpreted it as someone who got close enough to feel the actual weight of what's waiting on the other side. Because weight that doesn't exist can't be felt. You felt it because you arrived. And the summons came because I know where you are and what you're carrying. What this identity authorizes: you can stop waiting for other people's permission to cross what has already been sealed. The authorization doesn't come from external recognition. It doesn't come from who called you first or who stopped calling you. It doesn't come from who validated what you carry. It comes from heaven, which sealed what is yours before you even understood it was yours. You are a door breaker. I saw the previous thresholds, the ones that looked completely impossible when you were on the outside. That moment when you looked at what you had to cross and logic told you there was no way. And you went anyway. Not always with 100% confidence, sometimes with trembling, sometimes with more doubt than certainty. But you went. That version of you that needed to be left behind and felt like it would stay forever, you left it. That bridge that needed to be burned and felt final, you burned it. That moment when you hit what felt like the absolute limit of what you could endure. And you went further. Those breakthroughs weren't accidents. They weren't luck. They weren't favorable circumstances. They were the pattern of someone created to break through. And the pattern doesn't stop here. This door isn't the exception in your history. It's the next one in the sequence. What this identity authorizes: you can receive the authority to make the move that opens the door right now, without needing the external scenario to change before you move, without needing validation from the outside to confirm the moment has come, without needing anyone to tell you you're ready before you cross. Write in the comments the name of the identity you just received, the one that hit the deepest. And if you haven't subscribed, do it now, because what was sealed in this word is still being delivered. Now the protocol, it's called the crossing protocol. 3 steps. starts today, with what you have, from where you are. Step 1. Name what is on the other side of the door out loud, not a broad category, not success, not happiness, not general purpose. The exact specific name of what is waiting. If it's a project, name that project. If it's a conversation, name the person you need to talk to. If it's a decision, name the precise choice. If it's a direction, name the specific next step. What has no name has no direction of movement. What has no direction has no protocol. Vagueness is paralyzing. Specificity is the first act of the crossing. Speak it out loud, not just in your head, because the act of speaking carries a different spiritual weight. When you say the name, you are making a declaration of ownership, not just a quiet reflection. Step 2. Identify the thought that shows up exactly when you are about to move forward. You know this thought. You've heard it more than once. It shows up with a voice that sounds like yours. Sometimes it sounds like prudence, sometimes like calibrated humility, sometimes like spiritual maturity. It comes with arguments that seem reasonable. It cites examples. It reminds you of people who moved too fast and regretted it. But it always shows up at the same moment, when you are at the door. Identify that thought. Give it a name. Recognize it for what it is, the voice of the threshold, not the voice of truth. The voice of the threshold isn't lying because it's evil in some obvious way. It's wrong because it's identifying you as someone who hasn't passed yet, when you're already standing at the door. The thought that shows up at the door isn't a guide. It is resistance, and resistance with a name loses its power to paralyze. Step 3. Make the only physical move possible today. The smallest one that moves in the direction of what you named in step 1. Not the move that solves everything. Not the move that impresses anyone watching. Not the perfect move you'd plan if you had more time or money. The smallest real physical move. Today. Send that draft email, open that document, and write the first line. Make the call you've been putting off. Block that hour on your calendar. A concrete move. Get it out of your head and into the physical world. Today. The sign of confirmation when the protocol is received isn't euphoria. It isn't immediate clarity on every future step. It isn't feeling like everything suddenly got easy. It is stillness. A small, firm, quiet sense that something moved internally, that something got unstuck. When you feel that, the protocol has been received. Write "received" in the comments. In the next 72 hours, 3 things will be launched against you. Not as a maybe, but as a certainty. They will happen. I need you to know the name of each one before they arrive, because what has a name cannot surprise you. The first is justified waiting. It won't look like an attack, it will look like wisdom. It will come disguised as prudence or spiritual discernment. The voice that says, "It's just not the right time yet," will sound completely reasonable. It will have real arguments, it will cite contexts where moving early caused problems. It will use the language of maturity, and it will forget to tell you one thing. You are already at the door. It's not the right time is the right answer for someone at the start of the path or someone building a foundation. For someone at the door, the time isn't coming. It's here. The move is now. Justified waiting is the enemy using the language of wisdom to hold back someone who should have already crossed. The second is speed comparison. This one comes disguised as humility or honest self-assessment. It will show you others who moved faster, with less paralysis, with more resources, with more public recognition than you. And it will ask a quiet question that seems logical. If their destiny arrived and yours hasn't, maybe yours isn't active anymore. Maybe you missed the window while you were waiting. No. The speed of someone else's calling is not the thermometer for your destiny. Every door has a different protocol. Every threshold has a movement specific to the person crossing it. Your door isn't slower than it should be. It is demanding the specific movement that only you can make, one that has no shortcuts. The third is the urgent detour. This is the most sophisticated one. It doesn't show up as a problem, it shows up as an opportunity. A side route that looks safer, faster, less emotionally taxing, and more guaranteed. And it will show up exactly when you were about to cross. Not 2 days before when you had time to think, at the exact moment of the crossing. The timing is the biggest sign. A real opportunity doesn't show up to pull you away from the door where you were summoned. Real opportunities show up to advance what has already been given. If it appeared the second you were going to cross, and the result of saying yes is moving away from that door, it isn't an opportunity. It's a detour in a shiny wrapper. And the price of accepting it is going back to the start of the path because the route looked easier. And the subtlest enemy of all isn't any of those three. It's the internal voice that will speak with a tone of mature resignation. Maybe it's just not for me. It will sound like someone who has finally grown up, someone who stopped deluding themselves, someone who accepted reality with peace. It will sound like peace, but it is exactly in that moment, the moment that voice speaks with the appearance of peace, that Archangel Michael is already outside the door, calling your name. The voice that says it's not for me at the threshold isn't peace. It's the enemy using your own voice with the language of your maturity. Write protected in the comments. The decree has been sealed. Place your right hand on your chest right now, both feet firm on the ground, not the posture of someone backing into a safe place, the posture of someone about to cross. Before we go on, I need you to do something. Drop the weight of the midnight inventory. That list you open when the house is quiet, counting what hasn't arrived, obsessing over the deadline you invented, comparing where you are to where you thought you'd be. That inventory is not a guide. It is not spiritual data. It is weight. And weight that doesn't belong to you cannot cross with you. Also, drop the shame of having gotten close to the door before and stopping. It wasn't weakness. It was an arrival. Threshold. Bearers reach the door more than once before they cross. The pattern of going, pulling back, and returning isn't a sign it's not for you. It is the protocol of someone being prepared for what's on the other side, not just for the walk to the entrance. Every time you came back, that return had more weight. You can let the shame go now, and drop the interpretation that the paralysis was a sign of a wrong destiny. Now you know its name. Now you have the vocabulary. And what has a name can no longer confuse you in the same way. Now I want to talk to you. Directly, no middleman. I saw the nights you opened that silent inventory and stared into the dark counting what was missing. I was there, not watching from a distance, present. And I didn't see those nights as a lack of faith. I saw them as someone who got close enough to feel the weight of what's on the other side. You felt it because you arrived. I saw the hand that shook while you typed "I'm fine." I saw that the words you tried to build were too small for the fire inside you, and you chose not to waste energy you didn't have. I saw the smile you put on. I saw what was under it. And I didn't see weakness. I saw someone who learned to carry what hasn't been resolved with dignity. That dignity has a name. It's not resignation. It is faithful resistance. I saw every time you reached the door and pulled back. Every single time. And I saw something you couldn't see because you were looking through the eyes of disappointment. The moment you pulled back, you were closer than anyone who never tried to get there. And I saw that you returned. Every return was recorded, each one mattered. What made you come back wasn't just human grit. I put it in you. What is on the other side of that door is yours. It isn't conditional. It's not if you do everything right this time. It's not if you prove you're ready now. It's yours. Sealed before you ever understood it. What was sealed by heaven doesn't expire because your deadline passed. It doesn't expire because others got there first. It doesn't expire because you stopped and started a few times. What was sealed remains sealed. Protection now over your mind, over the thoughts that open that inventory when you should be resting, over the quiet questions that compare your rhythm to others, over the thought that will show up at the door in the next 72 hours with the voice of prudence and the heart of stalling. Protection over the interpretation that confuses the threshold with rejection, that confuses resistance with a no, that confuses the weight of the promise with evidence that it's not for you. Protection over your relationships, the ones that were shaken by the process of getting here, the people who pulled away because your transformation made them uncomfortable or confused, the ones who stayed but don't understand why you're different. What was promised about the people in your life hasn't been cancelled by those who left during the walk. It was guarded along with everything else. Protection over the timing. The timing isn't late compared to what was sealed. It is exact. What I prepare doesn't arrive before you're ready to sustain it, and it doesn't arrive after the right moment. It arrives when the bearer is prepared to hold the weight of the delivery without being crushed by its magnitude. Specific protection over the door in front of you, over today's move, over the threshold thought that will show up when you're about to take step 3, over the urgent detour that will appear in the next 3 days looking like an opportunity, over the internal voice that will try to use your own growth against you. Archangel Michael is stationed. What you are crossing, you will not cross without an escort. What was sealed cannot be unsealed by anything that happens in the next 72 hours. Now, say it out loud, not in your head. Out loud, with your feet firm and your hand on your heart. I have arrived. The door opens for me. Say it again, with more certainty than the first time. I have arrived. The door opens for me. Amen. Write done in the comments. What was delivered here is delivered. It is finished. And there is one person you are thinking of right now, not a group, one person. Someone you know is also standing outside a door, someone who also carries that silent inventory at night, someone who has gotten close and pulled back, someone listening to a voice that sounds like wisdom but acts like chains. Send this to them right now, not later. Now, because the protocol you received today was sized for them to cross too. The next video continues what started here. Watch it before you sleep. You aren't the same person you were when this message began. It is done.
You seek. You dedicate yourself. You do everything right, and yet abundance never comes. And the worst part? You start wondering if you're doing something wrong, if you're being heard up above, if it's meant for you at all. It's not a lack of faith or worthiness. It's a spiritual blockage that ordinary prayer alone cannot break. The Miracle Journal unblocks this in 21 days with a spiritual protocol that works exactly where your prayer doesn't reach. Along with the journal, you'll also receive as a gift the prayer guide and the Psalms manual with the most powerful sacred practices and texts to deepen your transformation. To claim your version of the journal, tap the link in the comments right below this video.